I need everybody else in my generation to promise that we are not going to raise iPad children.
These 10-year-olds are crazy.
Can you not make your child behave for more than 5 seconds, that they can live without an iPad for dinner?
Feels like a lot of these parents are trying to find an easy way out of parenting, so they handed their kids iPads to make them shut up.
Y'all are turning your kids into literal addicts.
I'ma just say this. I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade level.
I feel like Gen Z is just gonna be a lot better at parenting. We understand that throwing an iPad in front of your kids is not gonna prepare them for the world.
Welcome back. As we just saw, social media has become virtual shouting match over Gen Alpha, kids 0 to 14 years old who may feel, some feel anyway, that they are behaving badly. As you heard there, some believe that they are, quote, uneducated and overstimulated. Wired magazine says that unlike any other generation, Gen Alpha is growing up in an unprecedented environment of digital technologies. Gen Z has dubbed them iPad kids, slamming, as you heard there, their parents for 24/7 use of smartphones with our kids. And one of those parents is Amil. Niazi. She's fighting back against critics in the new essay for The Cut that has gone viral. It's called, and I love this title to be honest with you, I Don't Need Your Opinion on My Kids' Screen Time. Amil is here now. We're also joined by education reporter Anya Kamenetz, who is the author of the book, The Art of Screen Time, How Your Family Can Balance Digital Media and Real Life. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Amil, I'll start off with you because the title of your article stood out to me because it was just a scant few weeks ago, all of these kids were forced on iPads.
Yeah.
My son did his first workout class, his little kid gym, was on an iPad because of the global pandemic. So they are, and they did adapt to the world that was in front of them.
Yeah.
As did their parents,
Exactly.
us. So when you hear comments like, somehow I made it through my childhood with books, dolls, and coloring books. So crazy, right? That's what someone put up. What's your response to that?
Well, I think that, you know, the way you grew up is often perceived sort of with nostalgia. You maybe forget how difficult it was. You also don't know what your parents were dealing with and how difficult it was for them. What I know is that studies show that millennial parents, people like me and Anya, and, you know, the largest cohort of parents right now, spend more time with their kids than any generation before. Wow. And we also have to do it while we're working full time. In fact, studies have shown that working millennial mothers spend as much time with their kids as stay-at-home moms did in the 70s. Wow. And we're doing that while we're working, and we have no separation between home and work these days because we're stuck on screens.
Right, we're stuck on screens. And so when we look at the advancement of technology, the other thing I say is, you don't still carry a beeper, do you? The advancement is the iPad, and it's a learning tool when used properly.
That's right. And, you know, we need to really have a multidimensional view on this. And I think it's so easy to have cultural amnesia. I grew up in the 80s. I watched so much television.
I can tell you my full TV lineup from age 7. And by the way, I was something referred to as a latchkey kid.
Yes. Yeah.
Because my mom had to work.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So why do we look at that version of a kid nostalgically? I heard some of my Tam fam saying, that's right, latchkey kids. Yeah. But you would roll your eyes at someone with the iPad at dinner now.
Well, we live in this age of inequality and rising anxiety. And so it's so easy to point fingers and look around and say it's the screens that are doing it. But what's on the other side of that screen? The COVID pandemic, climate change, gun violence, right? And so these are the things that are actually causing us to withdraw into our houses and maybe spend less time and not let our kids go out and play and do the things that we remember doing as kids.
One of the things you wrote in your article, which I love, you said, I love reading about all the things people think they're going to do as a parent before they actually have any kids. The fantasy of it all. They're precious little angels abstaining from sugar, back talk, or scream. I love that because someone reminded me the other day, I said, my son's not going to have the iPad at dinner. That's what I said. Yeah. That is not what I do.
Yeah, and we're expecting them to shrink themselves and be quiet and be
Be quiet and shrink yourself and be small. And
don't
play
be a kid.
Right.
You know, it seems like the opposite of what people are saying. Let them be kids, let them be themselves, but also keep them quiet and don't let them interrupt my meal. You know, I think parents often feel so much pressure to not have the baby cry on the airplane, to not have the kid be disruptive in the restaurant. So what do you want us to do? We give them 10 minutes of like, you know, a Netflix show, and that's also wrong? We can't win.
Why do you think it is that people equate the iPad or any digital device with something so bad and so nefarious?
So this is historical, and it goes back a really long way. It goes back to the radio. Okay, kids were supposedly addicted to the radio like alcoholics. This was
really
that was in the news in the 1930s. You have kids like an alcoholic does their drink. A teenager wants their radio serial, and then it was comic books, and then it was violent video games, and then it was television, and now here we are. And what it is young kids love the next digital media. They are native to that media, and in our culture, in our society, we don't trust kids and we don't love them and center them the way that we need to.
Wow, that's deep. So I wonder how much of it is just the desire to judge.
Yes, I mean, we're surveilled all the time. People are constantly have their phones out recording a bad parenting moment, recording a tantrum. We live in fear of doing the wrong thing in public because we know that we're going to be told it's wrong. And I feel like social media has really amplified people's opinions about parenting. So now we have to hear how wrong we are constantly. You saw those videos of Gen Z saying, you know, your kids are bad and they don't know how to read. I volunteer at my kids' school. I've been the president of the PTA. I'm so involved. And I see those kids and they're kind, empathetic, smart, curious, incredible kids. Gen Alpha is amazing. But we see them in these little tiny moments on their iPads and we assume the worst about them and their parents, and it's not fair.
Coming up, Anya is staying with us. We're going to talk to millennial parents at the heart of the Gen Alpha debate while they feel they're being set up to fail next. That's interesting. It's true. Welcome back. Today we are launching into the Gen Alpha debate, the debate around kids age 0 to 14. It's happening online all day on every platform. Gen Alpha's mostly millennial parents are being blamed online, and many of them feel that they're under attack and overwhelmed by all the experts telling them how to raise their kids. Never before in history have there been so many cooks in the kitchen, from TikTok to YouTube to mommy blogs. Everyone has advice, and it is often contradictory. One Texas mom is going viral on social media after she posted this video venting about it all. Take a look.
We have access to way too much information. We always have. Millennial parents have millions of voices every single day telling us exactly how easily and how badly we can mess this up. Not only that, many of those voices are clinical professionals, which lead us to believe that they might actually be better at raising our own children than we are. We are terrified of messing this up. We are terrified of causing trauma. We are terrified of ruining their childhood. That fear can be absolutely crippling, meaning you do nothing, because the millions of voices that are happening around you, you should do this, you should do that, you should private school, you should homeschool, you should be a helicopter parent, you should be a free-range parent, you should discipline, you should do gentle parenting. All of those voices around you are absolutely crippling.
Wow. Lydia Kyle joins us. Also with us is Kier Gaines, a millennial father of 2 and a licensed therapist. And back with us is education reporter Anya Kamenetz. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
Lydia.
Yes, ma'am.
Your kids are ages 6, 5, and 3. You say that so many people are suffering from perfection paralysis. What is that?
The fear.
Well, they love that phrase.
Well, that's what it feels like when you can't trust your gut instinct because you're afraid your gut might actually be wrong. Yeah. And when you have so many voices telling you, no, do it this way, no, do it that way, this is best, this is best. And we've lost, I use that as a blanket statement, but I feel like a lot of parents feel like they've lost their gut instinct when the most important voice is your voice as the parent.
I love that you said that. That is true, because you do lose your gut, right? You don't go with your gut. With you here, you have 2 daughters, ages 6 and 2.
Yes.
Is that correct? 6 and 2. Mm-hmm. And you talk a lot about parenting style, the gentle parenting, the modern punishment. Mm-hmm. You're a therapist as well. What do you think of the conversation around the judgment over gentle parenting specifically?
I think the most unfortunate thing, or one of the most unfortunate things about gentle parenting, is how badly it's mischaracterized. Mm-hmm. When we say gentle parenting, what people are thinking of is not being an authoritative piece in your kid's life and kind of allowing them to run all over you and do whatever it is that they want to do. That's not really it. Gentle parenting is about parenting the whole child, mostly away from guilt and shame.
Yep.
But it's also about using discipline as a tool and not a punishment.
Yeah.
Generation Alpha gets a lot of flack from a lot of people who are still in their adult development. I was just watching the one piece when the man was like, I'll never let my kids do that. Raise your hand if you said you'll never let your kids do something that they now do a whole lot. Yeah. Because experientially, parenting is very different than theoretical parenting.
How much of an impact of literacy, because you heard someone say they can't even read anymore. I mean, we've seen test scores in reading go down for years now. So it wasn't as if the iPad entered the arena and kids stopped reading. We also seen a decline in cursive writing.
I mean, for me, what really makes me angry is the COVID-19 pandemic caused this huge rupture in our kids' education. That was 100% adults making those decisions without kids in mind. And you're gonna point fingers now and say that they can't read. Guess what? We closed the schools longer than any other country in the world. And so, and I followed that.
But also reading, the numbers were declining before
But
COVID.
they fell off a cliff during COVID. And so it really is, I mean, it's not technology, it is having online education to the exclusion of in-person learning for way too long. And to me, that's where now we're kind of blame the kids for that. I don't think so.
And your children are homeschooled now?
We're in Texas, so we have a lot of freedom when it comes to education. We can make choices. So originally, at the beginning of this year, my kids were enrolled in a private school. And I would say around Thanksgiving, I just started to notice kind of emotional regression. Specifically, one of my children, he was just struggling. And I just decided, you know, I think I need to have more of an influence on his education. And so for 2 days a week, they still go to a classroom setting where they get to socialize and be around their peers and they have their friends. And then the rest of it, I am homeschooling.
Kier, you talk about through your work as a therapist, the mental health aspect of this. The rates of depression, anxiety are on the rise with Gen Alpha. That conversation is heartbreaking at any age, but especially when you're talking about kids that are 14 and under, feeling the weight of this conversation. It brings me to tears because they're babies. And so it's tough for them.
Yeah, it is tough for them. By the way, I think you did a good job at setting a baseline and allowing those girls to know that you're being non-judgmental of them. But that's what we do. As humans, we become judgmental. We place value on things and we make evaluations on how other people do things relative to how we see the world. I might be a licensed therapist and I'm a parent, but I'm still a person. I get concerned about these kids because the brain is really old technology and our society is moving so quickly. I don't think the human brain was designed to read the thoughts and opinions of several different communities, the likes of which you will never have proximity to in real life. So I can vilify the iPad and the technology, but really it just kindles me to be more conscientious of how long my kids are using the technology, what kind of conversations we're actually having in my house, and what we prioritize.
I love that. Thank you so much, Anya, Lydia, Kier.